Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm Eric and I like to read, and today I'm going to be doing books that you can give as Christmas gifts to people that like different genres. So, for this list of books I'm going to be recommending, these are all books that I have personally read myself, and there is a wide variety of genres that I'm going to go over and what books I would like recommend for each one. I'm not going over all the genres because obviously, like, some of them I don't really read very much, but the ones that I tend to gravitate towards the most, I'll share some quick picks of books that I think would be a great gift idea for somebody that also likes those genres. So I figured that I would just start off with sci-fi because this is one of my bigger ones. And one of them that I thought would be a great read is The Martian by Andy Weir. This one is very like sci-fi-esque. It's following a astronaut who gets stranded on Mars after his team has to do an emergency evacuation, and how he continues to live on Mars when his team is already gone and no one else is left and he's there by himself, just struggling to get by every day. It's really intense, it's really humorous because the main character is very sarcastic in like the way they're doing their little recording sessions, because they're recording everything that they're doing for whoever will eventually find this. And so it's kind of hilarious, the little monologues that they have and little tangents they go on and all the stuff that they encounter. Like, it's very intense. It's just a very gripping novel and definitely pulls you in from start to finish. Also, by the same author, I have Project Hail Mary. This is one of their more recent books, and this one, it's definitely a chunker. So if this person, if they like sci-fi, I'm assuming that they like bigger books because most sci-fi books are typically larger. I think this one would also be a good one for them. This is also following an astronaut who goes on a space mission, and they're on this mission with a couple of their fellow astronauts, but when they wake up from their hypersleep, they realize that the other astronauts are deceased and they're the only one left on the ship, so they need to continue the mission as per ordered, but go from there knowing not much about what happened to their co-astronauts and having to figure that out and having to adjust accordingly. This one definitely goes in some different directions that I was not expecting. Some of them were really cool, and I was really like excited to see how it all played out. And yeah, this one is definitely like one that will also pull you in. I find that this author does a very good job of pulling you into these dire situations and putting you in the head of the main character, and you're still just like, you're like, this is okay, we'll figure it out kind of situation. Like, that's usually how his characters are, is like they're in such an intense situation, but they just have like a demeanor that they're going to figure it out, and they still stay positive when everything is going wrong. And I love that about these books. So definitely check them out if you want something like that. Also, on the sci-fi genre, if you want something a little bit more mind-bendy, then you could check out Dark Matter or Recursion by Blake Crouch. This author definitely will keep your head spinning in a good way. So for Dark Matter, you have a character who wakes up surrounded by people who are saying like, welcome back, and he's all of a sudden in this life where he doesn't recognize people. He's not married to his wife, he doesn't have his child, and so he's just very like thrown through like a loop here because this is not like what his life was like that he remembered. So that's all I'm going to tell you about this one. But it's him kind of like going from there, figuring out what's going on. This one was definitely a mind-bendy book. I keep saying that word, but like it's very true. And then Recursion. This one is following a detective who is investigating this thing called false memory syndrome. So people are like having these memories of lives that they've never lived before. And he's investigating like what's going on and why that's happening to some people. And the further he gets into the investigation, the more things start to like seem off to him, and we go from there. I don't want to tell you any more also about this one because this is a good one. It really pulls you in, and like I could not put this book down. Once I got to a certain point, I had to power through because it was so intense. So yeah, definitely some good choices from Blake Crouch. I also have his newest book, Upgrade, which I haven't read yet, but I do want to get to that one. And yeah, I don't know. I also like the color scheme he does for his books because they look really good on the shelf. Like this one's bright orange, bright yellow, and then the other one's bright blue. So like they just, when you look at the spines, they all just kind of like line up really nicely. It looks cool. And then of course we have Red Rising. This one is like a sci-fi version of the Hunger Games set in space. And this is the beginning of a trilogy. It follows a main character who has to go into this like battle academy school, and from there he has to kind of like navigate that. This school is all in preparation for things that follow in regards to like becoming space fleet commanders and things like that, and like getting political jobs within the system, the societal system that they're in after school. And so like this is like a training ground for that, but they're thrown into like, it's like an arena of sorts where it's like a whole battleground of like castles, tree fortresses, like places all around. And so they have to navigate as teams to kind of like conquer each other. It was really interesting. Like this one was such a good preemptive like start to the series, and it just like picks up from there and continues on, and it's so good. This is my like all-time favorite series, so that's why I'm kind of like pumping this one up a lot. But yeah, definitely something to check out. Now, if you're more somebody that likes thrillers or mystery books, then I have two suggestions for you. One is I Let You Go by Claire McIntosh. I read this a long time ago. And so this is following the story of a woman who is trying to get through the grieving process of losing her son after they escaped their fingers and ran out into the street and got hit by a car. And so it's following her going through that grieving process, while it's also following the police that were on the investigation of what happened with this car accident and what they are uncovering. So yeah, this one definitely was very like twisty. There were things that I was not expecting, and I was blown away when I got to the ending of this book. So definitely something to keep your eyes out for. Then there is I'm Thinking of Ending Things. This was sent to me by Simon Schuster, and I read this on like a plane ride and just like read it from start to finish, that single plane ride. It's a very short book, but like I thought I knew what was going on this whole time, and then I got to the end and was like way off. So that made me even more excited about how like this book played out, because afterwards I was just thinking about it and thinking about all the different interactions, and yeah, it made me rethink the whole thing. This is following a girlfriend who is going with her partner to a dinner at his parents' house, and she's actually at the point in the relationship where she's thinking of ending things, yet she's still agreed to go on this trip to his family's place to have dinner, because I think it's like one of the holidays or something, and so she's going there and then planning to end things after. And so it's like her and that whole situation playing out, and it's just, oh, it is so good. They made an adaptation of this on Netflix, and I will say they definitely got like the awkwardness of it down pat. But I do like the book way more than the adaptation, I will say that. But yeah, it was like the perfect amount of awkward vibes throughout. So yeah, if you want to read this and then check it out, you'll understand. But yeah, this one definitely, it's a very quick read, like you'll fly through it. Then if that person likes horror, you could go with Clown in a Cornfield or Dead of Winter. So Clown in a Cornfield, this is following a small town where there is a bunch of teens that decide to like have this big party out in the cornfield, and then they start getting murdered by sadistic clowns. And that it's very much set up like an 80s slasher flick, and I mean even just like the cover imagery, the typography, everything about this screams like one of those type of like campy horror movies, and I loved it. It read like that. It was just phenomenal. And this is also a series now, so this is the first of a series. So yeah, definitely check that out if you think that the person you're shopping for would like that. If they want more of like a secluded setting horror, then Dead of Winter would be the way to go. This is following a group of strangers who are on this like bus trip out to this resort in the mountains. I'm not sure which mountains, but like they're wintry mountains. And there's a tree that has felled on the road, and so they have to try and find a way around that tree. But then a snowstorm hits, so they take refuge in a nearby cabin. And when they wake up the next morning, they find their tour guide decapitated. And so from there, they have to kind of like figure out what's going on. There's obviously somebody that is tampering with this group, somebody that's killing people. And so everybody's kind of like, it's like a whodunit, but in a very tense situation because they're all kind of like forced into the same place together and they don't know who this killer is. This one was action packed and I could not put this book down. So definitely one that will be chilling, and keep the reader entertained and pulled in from start to finish. I also had so many theories going through reading this one, and like some of them were slightly correct, but a lot of the time I was way off. So I like that. I like when I can't figure it out because that means the author's doing a really good job of like making me have all these different assumptions about things and then proving them wrong. And it's just, I don't know. I love it. I love being proved wrong in a thriller sense. Then if we're going the fantasy route, I have 2 books for that. So one of them would be The Shadow of the Gods. This one Marcus had me read a long time ago. I say a long time ago, it was like last year maybe. And this one was told in 3 different storylines. So you're following 3 different characters that are all in this world. And oh my goodness, this was so intense. There's like crazy battles, crazy vengeance, and there's nothing stronger than a mother's love for her child. So like one of the storylines in this book is of a mother who her child gets kidnapped and taken like into like, I think it's like a child like slavery ring, and so she is on like a dead set mission to go get her child back, and it is so wild like where how far she goes and how intense it gets. It was really good. Like I really enjoyed this. I have not picked up the next one yet, but I definitely need to because this one was just such a wild ride. And then we have Legend Born, and so this one is following it's kind of like a retelling of the Arthurian legend, but all the characters are in like, it's not college, but they're in like a pre-college school. It's like a boarding school, I guess. And they are studying, but then there's also like this hidden Arthurian society that is not like relatively known to the general public. But this girl, our main character, I forget her name, I think it's Bree, happens to see some like magical encounter of a monster and somebody fighting off a monster, and so from there that leads her to like investigate further and find out more about what's happening at this school and more about herself in the process. And yeah, it's definitely like a really fun adventure. There is a second book that just came out this past year, so definitely something that I need to check out as well. But yeah, this one was a lot of fun, and it was a very quick read too. Like it's a big book, but it read really fast. So yeah. Then we have romance. And so for romance, I only had one book that really stuck out to me, and that was The X Talk. I read this a while back and had a great time with it. It's following 2 characters who are radio hosts, and so their radio station is trying to get some sort of like promotional show going because they need to make money to make their quota or else they're going to have to shut down. So they start this podcast with these 2 radio hosts, and they start talking as if they were exes and how they should have made different changes in their relationship and whatnot to like obviously not become exes. Now, the thing is, they're not real exes. They just made this up for the podcast, but then it is such a hit that their producer gets them to continue this charade and keep this going to keep bringing in the viewers and listeners. And so they have to keep going with this, pretending that they were exes, coming up with these like fake scenarios and talking about them. And as the 2 of them do this, they get closer through having to do this work together, and it goes from there. Yeah, I thought this one was a lot of fun, and it was my first time reading this author, but I would definitely read more of their books. I know that they have other ones that are kind of like similar themed. Like I think another one is like about a weather newscaster, and they're all kind of like those, along those lines. So yeah, I would definitely check out more by them. Then the last couple I have are not necessarily a genre, but they're LGBTQ plus books, and they're all ones that like kind of had an impact on me. So I figured I would share them. The first one is Simon versus the Homo Sapiens Agenda. I feel like everybody knows this book, but this one had a big impact on me when it came out, and it's just a good, like, heartfelt read. This is following the story of Simon, who is closeted and he is trying to like get through high school, but he has this like email thread going with this mystery guy at his school that is also gay. And so the two of them are chatting back and forth. But then another student finds his email open on a computer and decides to blackmail him. And so from there, he kind of has to like figure out what to do, and the story goes from there. It dives into like the family dynamics of the whole like coming out process, the friendship dynamics of the coming out process, and just all of that. And it was very relatable. Definitely a book for really anybody to read, because it gives you insights into all of the stuff that somebody could be going through in your life. Then we have Camp, and this is a very like sex positive book about an LGBTQ plus camp that all these kids go to, and it's following a main character who is trying to be more masculine for another character that goes to this camp, because they know that this other character only likes masculine guys and not really like the feminine type like he is. And so he tries to change himself completely to be this other version of himself for this person. And so it's the journey of like him doing that over this summer and how things play out that way. It's very enlightening. This book has one of the like favorite side characters of mine in it, and I would definitely like to see an offshoot story of just that side character. Don't know if that's ever going to happen, but I think it should. And then lastly, I have Release by Patrick Ness. This one was one of the first like LGBTQ plus books I read, and it had an impact on me because the main character came from a religious family, and I really related to like the way that their family dynamic worked, and what they kind of like had to go through and overcome because of that. So if you like something like that, then this one would be good. It's also a dual storyline, so you're following your main character who is struggling with their sexuality, but then there's also a secondary plot line where you're following a ghost girl who is like in the same city. It's like city or town. I think it's a town. She's in this town trying to figure out like how she died. And so yeah, you get to like have two different plot lines happening at the same time. Very cool. But yeah. Anyways, those are all the books that I would recommend for different Christmas gifts. So if you think any of those would fit, then definitely go check them out. And yeah, hopefully you have a good time with your Christmas shopping. Anyways, if you guys want to support me, I have a Patreon and a Coffee page, which I'll put in the description down below, as well as a link to buy my bookmarks. You guys know the drill. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Hit that bell notification button so you get notified when I post new videos. I post my videos on Tuesdays and Thursdays. And until next time, keep on reading.